In my opinion, Tropicana Field is not a very beautiful place to watch a baseball game. Unless, of course, your team goes in there and wins the first three games of a four-game set. And that is exactly what the Orioles did this weekend in Tampa Bay. And I'll recap all three games coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Orioles fans, today is Monday, June 10th, 2024, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb, and coming up on today's episode, we are going to recap the Orioles' first three games of this kind of odd wraparound four-game series in Tampa Bay that ends tonight, but the Orioles won the first three, picking up a 6-3 win on Friday, a 5-0 win on Saturday, and a 9-2 victory on Sunday. I'll get you the 5 things you need to know from all three of those games. We will talk about Anthony Santander heating up. We'll talk about the great starts from Kyle Bradish and Grayson Rodriguez. We'll talk about Adley Rutschmnan and his huge day on Sunday, and much, much more. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast, which is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. So we'll begin with the Friday game, the beginning of this weekend, a odd wraparound four-game series that pretty much everyone plays at least once during the season with the new schedule, where it's usually your four-game series are either Monday through Thursday or Thursday through Sunday. This one, a Friday through Monday series. Generally, when you play on Sunday at a day game, you then travel. But no. The Orioles stay in Tampa for a Monday game. So the 3 wins over the weekend wasn't quite a sweep yet. It was clinching a series win, and it makes it 21 consecutive series for the Orioles against the AL East, in which they have not lost. That's pretty impressive, if you ask me. It's 15 series wins and 6 series ties in their last 21. But let's start with Friday, as the Orioles opened up this series with a 6-3 victory over the Rays. And I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from that win. The first thing is, I'm going to call it. Now, this is going to include a little bit from what happened Sunday, but I'm going to call it. Anthony Santander is officially on one of his famous heaters. It started, well, it didn't start, but it continued with his home run on Friday. A solo shot in the second inning for the Orioles, 96 off the bat, 365 feet to open the scoring, his 13th of the year. And that made it 4 home runs in his last 7 games for Santander. And that, even at that point, you're like, okay, he's heating up. Had a 2-3 in that game, a single and a walk to go along with his home run. Just the stats continue to climb. They continue to climb. On Saturday, it's a 1-for-4, but he does have a double and a walk, reaches base twice again. And then it kind of culminates on Sunday. Only had 1 hit, but it was another home run on Sunday, a solo shot in the 4th to put the Orioles up 2-0. At that point, it's now 5 home runs in Santander's last 9 games. He's up to 14 on the season. And you look at his stats after a tough start to the year. Yeah, it's only 227, but his OPS is now approaching 800 at 786. The swings are getting better and better. He's back to the hitter we knew he was, and one of those famous heaters he can go on. 2 weeks of just demolishing homers. We're in the middle of one right now, so just sit back, relax, and enjoy Anthony Santander. Second thing you need to know from the O's Friday win over the Rays is that the Orioles also came through with some Oppo Taco shots on Friday. Now, the Santander homer he hit Friday was from the left side, and he pulled it to right field. Same thing with his home run on Sunday. But the other 2 Oriole homers on Friday night were hit to the opposite way. And it started with Ryan Mountcastle, who gave the Orioles the lead, would not give up, with a 2-run home run in the 5th inning on Friday, just sneaking one over the short wall right down the right field line at Tropicana Field. Hit it 101 off the bat, but it traveled just 333 feet. It's one of the shortest home runs you're going to see in Major League Baseball. But you know what? They all count the same. Hits it off Aaron Savali, the Rays starter, to give the Orioles a 4-2 lead with that home run. Got just a sinker on the inside half and just muscled it out to right field for a 2-run shot. And then Jordan Westburg had kind of the clinching blow for the Orioles with the team up 4-3 in the 8th. Westburg takes one over the wall, a little tougher, a little further away, 369 feet in right field for an Oppo 2-run shot to give the O's some breathing room, take it from 4-3 to 6-3 in the top of the 8th inning. Yes, this is a team that hits a lot of homers. They lead the big leagues in that category, but it's not just big, bulky guys pulling homers down the line. They got guys with opposite field power who show it off, and it gives even more depth to the lineup. Now, the third thing you need to know from the O's win over the Rays to open the series, that Cole Irvin just keeps being Cole Irvin. And now this wasn't his best start of the season, but it certainly wasn't his worst. Irvin gave the Orioles 5 2/3 innings on Friday night. He allowed 3 runs, but only 2 of them earned on 8 hits, with 6 strikeouts, no walks, and a home run allowed on 85 pitches. Irvin, after he took a lot from Orioles fans with his struggles last year, a 2.87 ERA for this team as we sit here today. You look in the O's rotation, like only Corbin Burns, with the amount of innings they've thrown, has been better. Now, he did allow some hard contact. That is pretty straightforward. Cole Irvin, 10 hard hit balls in 5 2/3 innings, but he didn't walk anybody. The 6 strikeouts was even a little bit higher than you expect from him sometimes, and he just limits the damage. Like, he got into a little bit of trouble. Well, he did give up the solo home run to Jose Siri in the 2nd, which made it a 2-1 game, and gave up a run in the 3rd. He let a couple of runners into scoring position, but got out of it, kept it a 2-2 game. And then the 6th was really the only time he got in trouble again. I thought he would easily cruise through the 6th, maybe come even back out for the 7th, but he got into a little trouble in that 6th inning. Gunnar Henderson made a throwing error that didn't really help him on a ball that is maybe a hit anyway, but the error allowed the 3rd run to score to make it 4-3. But his bullpen gave him help, which we'll get to. And it's Cole Irvin. I mean, yeah, you'd like maybe more than 5 2/3 sometimes when he goes out there, but like, it's 11 whiffs, it's 6 strikeouts, which was nice. It was a really good 4-seam fastball, 8 whiffs on that pitch on the night. He was just throwing fastballs, and then kind of mixed in the changeup and the curveball, and that was most of his 85 pitches that he threw. Just kind of a solid night for Irvin, where this seems to be like the middle of the pack of what you can get from him. Like 3 runs, 5 2/3, keep you in the game, you win a division ball game. Irvin continues to be just a big part of what the Orioles are doing, and kind of quietly, right? Because it's not the flame-throwing stuff. It's not the amazing strikeout numbers. It's just quietly keeping things chugging along. Now, the fourth thing you need to know from that win on Friday for the O's is that the bullpen followed up Cole Irvin with a big day. They got some huge, huge outs. It started with Jacob Webb, who entered for Irvin in a big spot. Orioles lead was just 4-3, 2 outs in the 6th inning, and the Rays had runners on 2nd and 3rd. A base hit flips that game on its head and gives Tampa Bay the lead. But he gets a big line out to left. The first batter he faces, Colton Cowser, makes a nice running catch in left field to keep the game 4-3. And then he settles in and comes back and gets 3 more outs, gets through the 7th inning, a big 1 1/3 from Jacob Webb. Yennier Cano came out there in the 8th. It was after Westburg hit the homer. It made it a 6-3 game. And he kind of labored a little bit. It took him 26 pitches to get through a scoreless 8th inning. But a 0 nonetheless, which is what you love to see from Cano. And then Craig Kimbrell had a little bounce back outing. We know the last time he was out there, he gave up a run in the 9th, allowed the walk-off on Wednesday night in Toronto, but he came back out, an easier save situation, 3-run lead, and he goes 1-2-3 in the 9th inning to lock down the game. The bullpen the last 2 weeks has just been fantastic for the Orioles. They continued it on Friday night. The fifth and final thing you need to know from the Orioles' 6-3 win over the Rays on Friday to open up this wraparound series is that specifically, I'm kind of sticking with the bullpen, Yennier Cano did something a little bit different on Friday night in his scoreless 8th inning. Now, this is something that I talked about last week with Yennier Cano's arm angle dropping a little bit. He went through a stint, it's like July or August of last season, where his arm angle dropped and he couldn't get as much sink on his sinker and his changeup, and they became less effective. So he was throwing more sliders because from the sidearm slot, the slider moved more, and he would even toss in a couple of 4-seam fastballs as well because he could still throw hard, and he just wasn't getting the sink on his sinker. Now, it seemed like a couple of weeks ago, Cano went through a little thing with the arm slot, but now it looks like this is more of a concentrated approach on changing his pitch mix. And there was a really good story from Andy Koska in the Baltimore Banner last week that talked with Cano and the pitching coaches about how he is changing things up, because as good as Cano has been since he burst onto the scene early last year, opposing hitters are starting to see him a lot because, quite frankly, he pitches a lot in big spots for the Orioles, and they're starting to adjust to him. And he's allowed more hard contact, and he started to walk some more batters this season. So he's starting to switch things up in terms of his pitch mix. Now, sinker and changeup is still going to be the top two for Cano, but we've seen some more sliders lately. And the big point of Andy's story is we're seeing more four-seam fastballs. Despite him relying on the movement of that sinker, he still throws a fastball with good velocity. And with that arm angle maybe dropping a little bit, it almost reminds me of how Craig Kimbrell's fastball is so good. He has a weird release point where he kind of throws from the side a bit and it allows the fastball to get some more ride and almost seem like it's rising up. That is what Yennier Cano's kind of new four-seam fastball looks like when he throws it. And Cano went out there and threw. Now, he threw 26 pitches, which is a lot for Yennier Cano, but it was 9 four-seam fastballs. That is the most four-seamers Cano has ever thrown in one outing in his major league career. Now, it's only 9 pitches, but it's something significant. And Ray's batters swung at 5 of those 9 fastballs, and they swung and missed on 3 of those 5 swings, including 2 strikeouts. Yeah, both of the strikeouts he got in that scoreless 8th inning came on that four-seam fastball. So it's not just like, he's like, let me throw a four-seam. It'll get me some called strikes, get me ahead in the count. Like, no. He added a new weapon and went to it for both of his Ks in a huge spot against a division rival. Now, I don't think the fastball is going to take over and become his primary pitch. It's still going to be his sinker and changeup. But the fact that he can trust the slider more and trust the four-seamer more, I think he could get back closer to the level we saw him early in 2023 because this four-seamer is a completely new wrinkle. And if you read anything from the swings from the Rays hitters on Friday night, opposing batters are not ready for that ball to not sink and instead rise a little bit. And if he's throwing a rising fastball, a sinking fastball, a good slider, a crazy changeup, yeah, it could get ugly for opposing hitters if Cano continues to do this with the four-seamer. But he helped to close it out. The Orioles won it 6-3 on Friday night to open up this 4-game series. Then they went to Saturday. And as good as the pitching was from Irvin in the bullpen on Friday, it was better on Saturday. Saturday may have been the best pitching performance collectively of the season by the Orioles. And I'll tell you how they did it coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Supply House. Now, listen, for Supply House, you can get supplies from the site that is made for the skilled trades. That's right, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? You can get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. And pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free Trademaster program. Every Trademaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. So join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. And today's episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. Now, we love the baseball season and we love everything going on. And summertime certainly means baseball, but it also means the NBA Finals and more. And you can bet on it all at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from Finals MVP to who is going to hit one out of the park. And listen, I've still said it. I think the Celtics are going to win, but if you want to have a little fun and throw a little money on the Dallas Mavericks, why not? That seems like, I don't know. Nobody wants Boston to win something. I was in Boston this weekend. I don't want to see the Celtics fans happy. So maybe you go for the Mavs. And you can do that by visiting FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So the Orioles took the opening game of this series by a score of 6-3 on Friday night, and then they turned around and got game 2 as well, winning it 5-0 over the Rays on Saturday in game 2 of 4. And I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from that Saturday win. And the first thing you need to know is Kyle Bradish apparently loved those extra days off he got this week. Now, if you remember back to his last start, last Saturday against these same Rays in Baltimore, Bradish had his worst start in a while, lasted just 2 2/3 innings, allowing 5 runs. He couldn't even get out of the third. He was laboring. He had zero sinker command whatsoever. It was tough to watch. And because of that, Brandon Hyde pushed him back. He was originally going to start Thursday afternoon in Toronto. The Orioles instead called up Cade Povich to make his major league debut. Hyde eventually said, it's not an injury thing. We just want to get him a little bit of rest. They pitched Irvin on Friday and slated Bradish in for Saturday to give him 2 extra days. And man, did those 2 extra days help out Kyle Bradish. He was dominant on Saturday. 6 scoreless innings, allowing just 1 hit with 9 strikeouts and no walks on 88 pitches, now with a 2.62 ERA on the season. Bradish was phenomenal, and it was crazy. First batter of the game he faces, Yandy Diaz, the leadoff hitter for the Rays, hits a little slow roller down the third baseline. Bradish can't really get to it. Westburg can't really get to it. Bradish picks it up and throws it to first, but it's not in time. It's a leadoff infield single. Kind of a frustrating way to start a game, right? You make a good pitch, he hits a slow ground ball. It's almost just too slow. And then Bradish just locked in and said, you know what? That made me mad. I am not allowing a base runner for the rest of the time I am in this game. And that is exactly what he did. He retired the next 18 batters he faced, 6 perfect innings after giving up that leadoff single. It was one of the most amazing things that I've ever seen on a pitching mound, at least from the Orioles, because we haven't had a lot of amazing pitching performances just generally over the years. But this was fantastic. Only 2 hard hit balls came against Kyle Bradish. And in his 6 innings, I'm not saying a hit, I'm saying the ball, the baseball itself, when contacted by Rays hitters, did not leave the infield while Kyle Bradish was on the mound. Let me say that again. He recorded 18 outs, 9 of them via strikeout. He allowed 1 hit. It was an infield single. And the other 9 outs were either ground outs or infield pop-ups. That was it. Literally nothing went to the outfield against Kyle Bradish. That is absurd. Nobody squared him up all day. It was kind of ridiculous to watch how dominant he was in this game. And he did kind of the Kyle Bradish effect. He's basically, it's 28 sliders, 26 sinkers, throwing a lot of those 2 pitches. And the sliders was the chase pitch, 7 whiffs. He got him to chase it out of the zone. And then his sinker command was completely back. He pounded the zone with his sinker. He was down at like 30% on that pitch last time. 65% of his sinkers were in the zone this time on Saturday. That is much, much more the Bradish you want to see. There was more 4-seam fastballs than we're used to, 22 of those, and he even dropped in some curveballs. And he was getting swings and misses on the fastball, the curveball, the slider, everything. It was just all working. It was a fantastic day to watch. And what it made me feel really good about is when Bradish got pushed back, me and others were worried that there was another injury issue. We know, he had the partial tear in the UCL. He missed a month this year. He had the PRP injection. Like, you're still a little bit on pins and needles with Kyle Bradish every time he pitches this year. And I was worried when they pushed him back. Is he injured again? Is he sore? Turns out he might have just been fatigued and tired. Because, man, did he not look fatigued or tired Saturday? Those 2 extra days. And now it does, answer the question, or really more so ask the question, is he going to need to be on extra rest for every start this year? And that could harm the Orioles as we get down the road. That's something we'll have to learn about as he makes more starts. But if they can get him this much rest every time and he can pitch this well, maybe it's worth it to go to a 6-man rotation if you're going to get Bradish this good every time he goes out there. Second thing you need to know from the Orioles win on Saturday is the bullpen just finished off an incredible day after Bradish left. You could have maybe pushed Kyle into the 7th inning, but after everything he went through in his last start, I think it was perfectly fine at 88 pitches to take him out of there. The O's went to Danny Coulombe, and he was just as good. Now, he retired all 6 batters he faced, 2 scoreless innings with 3 strikeouts. He did allow 2 fly ball outs to the outfield. The Rays finally hit the ball to the outfield, but he still kept up the perfecto the Orioles were running after the leadoff single. That made it a consecutive 24 outs, and then Cionel Perez came in, and he got the first 2 outs of the 9th inning. You're like, are the Orioles going to throw a delayed perfect game after a leadoff infield single? But unfortunately, Yandy Diaz got the Orioles again with a 2-out single off Perez. He then struck out Brandon Lau to end the game. But man, oh man, Colum and Perez were almost as good as Bradish was. Again, they almost had like a delayed perfect game. They retired from the Yandy Diaz hit in the first to the Yandy Diaz hit in the ninth. The Orioles pitchers retired 26 batters in a row. That was maybe the most complete, and I'm not even going to say maybe, that was the most complete and impressive pitching performance by the Orioles as a team all season, and it was incredible to watch. Third thing you need to know from the O's win over the Rays on Saturday is that Gunnar Henderson hit home run number 20. There was a bunch of weird stats about, youngest Oriole to hit 20 homers by this, whatever. All you need to know is Gunnar Henderson's really good, and he now has 20 home runs this season. This home run that put the game away. The Orioles got 2-1 with nobody out in the ninth. They had a 2-0 lead, but, they don't have a lot of off days. They don't want to use everybody out of the bullpen. They would really like to extend that lead. And Henderson did just that. A 3-run shot into right field in the ninth inning put the Orioles up 5-0, 103 off the bat, 364 feet. And for Gunnar Henderson, it came at a time when he had gone a little bit without a homer. Now, he did walk in that game as well, but the home run was his only hit. Gunnar Henderson, before the 3-run shot Saturday, had failed to homer in 5 consecutive games. And you're like, 5 games without a homer, plenty of players go 5 games without a home run. But that was only the second time this season that Gunnar had gone at least 5 consecutive games without hitting a home run. That is how good he has been all year. Another big blow for him, for the Orioles. Just keeps hitting, just keeps hitting. Fourth thing you need to know from that Saturday win for the O's is that it was a full day for Ryan O'Hearn as well. Now, it was O'Hearn who opened up the scoring for the O's with a solo home run in the fourth that he hit off of Rays starter Taj Bradley. It was the only run that the Orioles got off of Bradley in this one in his 5 innings of work. But O'Hearn kind of smoking one into right field, 98 off the bat, 361 feet to put the Orioles up 1-0. And then he absolutely scorched a single in the 8th inning, hit it 106 off the bat, then stole second, which is pretty crazy to see from Ryan O'Hearn, and then scored when Jordan Westberg knocked him in with a double to make it 2-0. And O'Hearn has just been swinging it really well in the month of June. Now, I will say he did have an 0 for 5 in the Sunday game, but if you're just looking through play on Saturday, O'Hearn had started June 9 for 21, a 429 batting average with a double, 2 homers, a walk, 2 Ks, and 2 stolen bases, 2 for 2 stealing bases for Ryan O'Hearn, and 10 of his 19 batted balls had been hard hit. It's just batted ball quality like you're not going to see really from almost anyone else besides Gunnar Henderson in the Oriole order. And that is what you're getting from maybe potential AL All-Star Ryan O'Hearn. It's not likely, but he's hitting, he's producing. And the fifth and final thing you need to know from the Orioles' 5-0 win over the Rays on Saturday in Game 2 of this series is that Connor Norby got another start, and he just continues to hold his own. Now, he's not playing every day, and that's because Ramon Arias is also swinging a hot bat for the Orioles right now. But Norby had a single in the 9th inning ahead of the Gunnar 3-run homer. He also had a very hard hit line out in the 5th. And listen, he didn't play Sunday, but he's on a 3-game hitting streak right now. He's got a 13% barrel rate and a very small sample size. Now, they still brought in Ramon Arias defensively late in the game on Saturday, like they've done, unless it's been a blowout, when Connor Norby has started so far. And listen, Jorge Mateo was out there on the field before Sunday's games, taking ground balls at second base. Remember, he was placed on the 7-day injured list back on Monday, which I believe means he would be eligible here on Monday to come off the 7-day concussion IL. Now, we're unsure at this point. I'm recording late on Sunday night if Mateo will come off the IL. And I think the assumption is Norby will go back down to AAA Norfolk when that move is made. But Norby has certainly held his own in this stint. And even if, this is kind of it for Norby for now, and he goes back to AAA on Monday, I think what Norby proved is if the Orioles do need an infielder again, at some point before they recall Jackson Holliday, they should feel comfortable bringing Connor Norby back up to the big leagues again if they need him. But he helped the O's. They got the 5-0 win Saturday and took the first 2 of the 4-game set. Then they went into Sunday looking to clinch the series, and they did that in grand fashion. I'll tell you about it to finish off the pod coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Now, you know LinkedIn, right? But there is a lot to offer at LinkedIn. Are you struggling to close deals? Well, B2B selling is tougher than ever. And that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals, and shows you hidden allies. You can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. And it's fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform. So Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. And right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon and get started today. And this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by the DK Law Group. DK Law Group is a Maryland-based law firm who has redefined the legal process with their modern approach. The DK Law Group specializes in real estate law, estate planning, business law, and family law. They are tech savvy, they treat their clients like family, and they focus on keeping your legal solutions simple. And one of the things you will quickly notice with the DK Law Group is they are transparent in their pricing. They believe in clarity and cost, and that no one should be left in limbo. So contact the DK Law Group today at dklawmd.com. And Locked On Orioles listeners can call today to schedule a free 30-minute consultation when you mention the tagline, Empowering Legacies. So the Orioles got those first two wins of the series in this wraparound 4-game set, winning it Friday and Saturday, and then they did it again on Sunday. It was quite a beautiful weekend of baseball at the Trop as the Orioles closed out at least the weekend portion of this 4-game set by winning it 9-2 on Sunday to clinch a series victory in Tampa Bay. And I'll finish off today's episode by getting you the 5 things you need to know from the Orioles' Sunday win. And the first thing you need to know is Grayson Rodriguez was good, but he was perfect for a while there on the bump for the Orioles. Final line for Grayson in this one. He allowed 2 runs on 2 hits over 5 2/3 innings, striking out 6 and walking 1 with no homers through 107 pitches, which was a season high and I believe maybe a career high for Grayson Rodriguez. ERA is at 3.27 on the year, and he allowed just 1. That is right, 1 hard hit ball on the day. You might be asking, Connor, what was the 1 hard hit ball? Well, it was the first hit Grayson Rodriguez allowed, because that's right. He was perfect through 5 innings in this game, just carving up Rays hitters. Unfortunately, he walked the first batter in the 6th inning, then got 2 outs, got 3-2 to Yandy Diaz, and Diaz laced a single into right center field for the first hit of the day. Only hard hit ball against Grayson Rodriguez. Brandon Hyde let him face one more batter, tried to let him get Brandon Lau out to finish off the 6th inning. It was a long battle between Grayson and Lau, and ending up on a 3-2 slider that Lau hit into right field for an RBI single to make it a 3-1 game. Grayson, at 107 pitches at that point, had completely emptied the tank against Brandon Lau. It was the right time to pull him. But when he was out there, he was great, just pumping fastballs at the top of the zone, which we've seen Grayson do a lot this season. 49 of his 107 pitches was that 4-seam fastball. Sitting 96, he was up to 99 multiple times, which was fun to see. 9 whiffs, 8 called strikes, 11 foul balls, just strike, 60% zone percentage on that 4-seam fastball. And then I thought otherwise he mixed his other pitches well. 23 curveballs, 18 changeups, 14 sliders, and he threw 3 sinkers as well. But when the 4-seamer is so good, you don't have to throw the sinker as much. But the changeups got some big swings and misses against lefties, which is the plan for that pitch. He was able to drop the curveball in for strikes a lot, which, it's kind of a get me over curveball at times. It's not certainly his strikeout pitch. And then the slider wasn't his best day at the slider, but when he needed to go to it, he got some big sliders in some big spots, and it helped him out in this game. And I just thought, unfortunately, he ran out of gas there in the 6th, and he gave up a run and then an inherited run score. That's why he was charged with 2 runs in this outing, but he just mixed his pitches well. He was confident on the mound. I really wanted him to get through that 6, just couldn't win that battle against Terp Brandon Lau. But when he's perfect through 5 and he's taken a no-hitter into the 6th inning now twice this year, it's fun to watch, certainly, when he can do that. Second thing you need to know from the Orioles Sunday win is that the O's just kept hitting triples. Triples is best, as you could say. 3 triples in the game for the Orioles ties the franchise record. Now, this is now the 10th time in Orioles history that they've hit 3 triples in a game as a team. They've never hit 4. Last time they did it was September of 2022 against the Red Sox. Colton Cowser, an RBI triple down the right field line in the 6th, put the Orioles up 3-0. Cedric Mullins, a leadoff triple in the 7th, ended up scoring a run. Jordan Westberg, a leadoff triple in the 8th, ended up scoring a run. Also shout out to Mullins, who had a 2-hit day. Nice to see from him. But it's kind of cool to see that, hey, this Orioles offense, which did hit its homers in this game, which I will get to. I already mentioned the Santander solo shot, but they hit a lot of extra base hits. They drive the ball, and sometimes that's not homers. Sometimes it's singles, doubles. Sometimes it's triples. Apparently on Sunday, a lot of the times it was triples. And you get yourself to third base all alone, there's a good chance you're going to score. And guess what? 2 of the 3 triples scored. The other one brought in a run and was with 2 outs. You love to see that. And then the third thing you need to know from Sunday's win is that Adley Rutschmnan put things away with a grand slam. 8th inning, 2 outs, 0-2 count. Orioles up 5-2. You know, they're okay up 5-2 going in the bottom of the 8th, but you'd like to get a big hit there, extend the lead, get some cushion, and Adley does just that. 0-2 breaking ball, which might have been below the strike zone. Adley goes almost down to one knee and launches it out into the right field seats for a grand slam, 100 miles per hour off the bat, 390 feet for Rutschmann's second grand slam of the season. And that made it the first game in Orioles history in which the team, which, remember, it's now been around for 70 years, first game in Orioles history in which the team had 3 triples and a grand slam in the same game. These Orioles are just making new records every time they go out there, seemingly. And it was part of a huge day for Rutschmnan, who has just been so fantastic this year for the Orioles, hitting out of that 2-hole. He's been incredible from the right side of the plate, but this one came from the left side of the plate where he has still been good. Rutschmnan went 3 for 5. With a home run, a couple of singles. He had 4 hard hit balls and a career high 6 RBIs in this game for Rutschmnan. He had an RBI single in the 3rd that gave the Orioles a 1-0 lead to open the scoring. He had an RBI single in the 7th, which kind of pushed the lead back up to 4-2. He's just mashing the baseball, and he's catching fantastic games behind the plate. This is a star. He might not be the all-star starter because Salvador Perez has been so good, but he's certainly going to be an all-star. Line out in the 1st, bloop single in the 3rd, hard hit ground out in the 5th, hard hit single in the 7th, grand slam in the 8th. Just great day for Adley Rutschmnan, who now you continue to look at what he is doing statistically at the plate. 306 average, 834 OPS. Like, this is a legit hitter. It's not just a catcher who can hit. This is a legit hitter who can catch. And that's what makes him such a cool star in today's game. But it wasn't just Adley doing the mashing, because the fourth thing you need to know from the O's Sunday win over the Rays is that it was just all around mashing for the Orioles. Really, the only guy in the lineup who didn't contribute was Ryan O'Hearn. He did have 2 hard hit balls, but he ended up 0 for 5 on the day. But that's okay, because O'Hearn had a great day Saturday. He's hitting over 400 in June. I think he'll be okay with one rough day on Sunday. But the Orioles had 17 hard hit balls as a team. Remember, that is a ball with an exit velocity off the bat of 95 miles per hour or more, a ball that generally statistically will end up as a hit more often than balls that you hit softer. Gunnar Henderson was the only one without a hard hit ball, but even without a hard hit ball, he reached base 3 times. He had a double, a single, and a walk in this game, really contributed offensively. I mean, you go up and down the lineup, like 2 hits from Mullins, 2 hits from Cowser, 3 hits from Jordan Westberg in this game, including a double and a triple. Santander had the home run that I mentioned on his heater. Gunnar with 2 hits, Rutschmnan with 3 hits. Ryan Mountcastle had an 0 for 4, but he had a walk and an RBI. Ramon Arias had an 0 for 3, but he had a walk and a run scored in this game. Like, everybody pretty much 1 through 9 in this Oriole order, just contribution after contribution. They're hard to pitch to. How do you pitch to these guys? You can't pitch around and the next guy's going to beat you. It's a great offense. I understand they went through a slump a little bit a couple of weeks ago. Teams go through slumps. This offense, since the sweep ended in St. Louis, has been statistically in every category the best offense in Major League Baseball. So just give them a little patience. They will come around because they are this good. And the fifth and final thing you need to know from the Orioles' 9-2 win over the Rays on Sunday, which clinched this series, winning the first 3 of this 4-game wraparound set, is that the bullpen got the outs that they needed. Now, Dylan Tate had a little bit of a struggle, kind of again. He came in after Rodriguez allowed the RBI single to allow. It was 1st and 3rd, 2 outs in the 6th. Orioles leading 3-1. And Tate allows an RBI single to Randy Arozarena to make it 3-2. He then walks Josh Lowe, and it's a big spot. Bases loaded, 2 outs, O's up by 1 in the 6th, but he went back into attack mode, and he strikes out Johnny DeLuca on 3 pitches with a really good sweeper to get the swing and miss for strike 3. And that was nice to see from Tate. Like the last couple of times, he allowed some earned runs or some inherited runs to score, and he did it again in this one, but to settle in and get the big out to keep the O's in the lead was huge. And then the even bigger part was next half inning, boom, O's break out, score 2 in the top of the 7th, immediately take a 3-run lead back to pick up their pitchers. And then Cionel Perez comes back out there, a nice looking 1-2-3 7th, and then the O's break it open with the Adley grand slam, made it 9-2 in the 8th. So they were able to go to Keegan Aiken, and Keegan Aiken had that terrible stretch, those 3 outings at the end of May. He's been great in June since then, and he closed this thing out. It wasn't the prettiest 2 scoreless innings, but guess what? It was 2 scoreless innings to finish off the 9-2 win, to not have to use anyone else out of the bullpen. That is huge. We've mentioned it a million times. The Orioles have 1 off day in June, so shout out to Aiken for that, and shout out to the Orioles for a fantastic, dominant weekend of baseball against a divisional opponent, winning all 3 that they played this weekend in Tampa Bay. But I mentioned it's a weird wraparound series, right? That's because they've got 1 more game in Tampa tonight. Yes, it's game set, and it finishes off here on Monday night. Orioles have the series win in tow, but they are looking for not just a sweep, but a mop. That's when you win all 4. And it's Corbin Burns who will take the mound for the Orioles tonight, a 6:50 p.m. Eastern time start. He'll go up against the 26-year-old right-hander Ryan Pepio, who has a 3.96 ERA in 10 starts this season. But Pepio never faced the Orioles in a Rays uniform, did not pitch in the series last weekend at Camden Yards, the right-hander. So we'll see if the O's can finish off the mop tonight. And then I will be back tomorrow to recap everything you need to know from the final game between the O's and the Rays. And also tomorrow, I will announce the winner of the Orioles Locked On Orioles giveaway of the Grade 8s hoodie that we were talking about all throughout the week last week. Make sure to tune in to the end part of tomorrow's episode to hear about the winner, and we'll also discuss some of the responses about the feedback on the podcast as well. But that's all coming up on tomorrow's episode. Until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.